Hello. I have just written a response to Ken Melvin's posting of a video about the healthcare bill and then found out that I couldn't post something that long on Facebook. So in an effort to figure out how to post it on Facebook, I've decided to record it. It's about 1 page long. I have rehearsed it once because I didn't have the video recorder on, but other than that, it's pretty unrehearsed. Um, Here we go. I hope shouldn't take too long, and this is my point of view. The argument over pages 425 through 430 of the health care bill, House Bill 3200, mandating doctors to provide consultation for advance directives, which is end-of-life planning, touches on what I consider to be one of the most important and most difficult aspects of fixing the ever-spiraling costs of health care: our culture's denial of death. Denial which leads to intensified fear and irrationality at the end of life, which then leads to excessive, expensive medical procedures in the last 30 days of life. This in spite of the fact that most of us state that we want to die at home in our own beds, not in a hospital. This disconnect in thinking and behaviors around death needs to be addressed. If Americans cannot handle having a mandate that says you must put in writing what you want in the way of care as you approach your death, if we cannot even stomach the idea of talking about death or having an exit plan, we are in very deep shit, my friends, because every single one of us will die. And as someone who works with the dying on a regular basis, I can tell you that you're probably going to feel better about it if you've thought about it and have an idea of how you want to approach it. It's kind of like each of us, without exception, has an upcoming appointment to go skydiving. Most of us don't like the idea, but we cannot avoid the inevitable, so it's a good idea to become familiar with your parachute. We might also want to think about how we would like the experience to go, so that as we approach the edge of the open hatch, we can visualize how we want it to be, even if our hope is nothing more than to accept our not knowing. If we've thought about it, we might have an idea of who we'd like to have there with us, cheering us on, and we might have a clear notion of which toxic jerks, and unfortunately, sometimes that's our closest family, we do not want at our side, either trying to hold us back or pushing us out before we're ready. We should know if we want to be clear and sober or stoned out of our minds as we take the big leap. And we do what we can to plan for the trip. And hopefully, with the right counsel, we will have also come to some acceptance that death is a mystery and that there's only so much you can do before you have to just let go and enjoy the ride. I don't want to minimize the issue. It was really, really hard for me to finally get around to doing my end-of-life planning. And the end of life is no picnic. Very understandably, we try to avoid it. But as the saying goes, there are only two things we know will be there for sure: death and taxes. Government knows it can count on both. And I, for one, am glad that there is someone in the government brave enough to stand up and say that it's time Americans grow up and face the inevitable in a way that will help themselves, their families, and our society for when the moment comes. I don't suggest that we mandate people's choices. If you want every possible effort to be made to sustain your life, that's your right. But I do suggest that we as a society agree that from now on, for the common good, we are all required to be educated on the pros and cons, and that we are going to make a plan, that we as individuals are going to make a plan. I'm not sure that forcing doctors to have the conversation is the best idea. I think there's some conflict of interest there. But most people want to have the conversation with the person that they think is most knowledgeable about how their body lives and dies. I mean, I talked about it with my lawyer, which seems even more ridiculous than talking about it with a doctor. What I would envision is a counselor who intimately understands and accepts the process of death, not a doctor whose job it is to fight it. But I think that most people would prefer a physician's opinion, and I think that's why they wrote it the way they did. As for the idea that people will want to change their minds at the last minute, damn straight they will. Damn straight I might. And many times it's those decisions made in the face of that fear that determine whether we will suffer a fairly immediate death or whether we will spend years living life with little quality of life, trapped in a body that doesn't really work anymore. Yes, reasonable recovery sometimes occurs, but often in the face of major health traumas it does not. Or our body is saved and we gain a few years, but live a longer life, slowly losing our mind. Most of us, if asked, would say we fear a life of dependence and pain more than death. So it comes back to that moment of choice. The fear of death is a given. That's why you do the plan when you can think straight, and that's why you want as much information about the process as possible. Build fear into the plan and think about how you'll deal with that. Build loving attachments into the plan. You will have people that you won't want to leave. And practice letting go. Fear and attachment are huge. I'm not saying it's simple. Fear and attachment are both reasons why the yogis and the lamas and the shamans prepare by meditating their whole lives on their deaths. But I'm not going to go there. Maybe in my next sermon. For now, I'm just asking that we as an American society force ourselves to make the difficult decisions about how we want healthcare professionals to treat us at the end of our lives. I hate that it has to be legislated, but it's one of the best ways to get us to do things we don't like to do. Thanks for listening. If you have an audience for this sort of discussion, please pass it on. If you have another point of view, I'd love to hear it. Maybe you could make me a video. Bye.